Good morning and welcome back to another video. It's currently 7:30 in the morning. It's not even that early, but I suffer from extreme brain fog at this time of the morning. I am not a morning person at all. I stay up too late at night. I don't get enough sleep. So I only really wake up about 9 o'clock. So to try to record a video at 7:30 in the morning is a real struggle. But today's video is going to be like a hybrid mix. We're going to do 3 different sections. We're going to do the farm, my morning routine, what I do every day of winter on the farm. So feeding the calves, scraping the cows, bedding the cows, giving the cows silage, and I don't know what else I have to do this morning, maybe tag a few calves. I'm going to document all that, and that's going to be the start of this video. And then we're going to have a little bit in the middle, which is going to be building some electronic control systems. I'm going to shorten down like 2 or 3 hours of work into like a couple of minutes, give you just a really basic idea of what I do with my electronics and how I build them, why I build them. And then the last part of this video is going to be based on a TikTok I done at the start of the week on climate science, climate change, climate accounting for farming, climate audits, all of that. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to go home and sit at my table to discuss through that. I will set the camera up and video bits and pieces this morning, and I will catch up with you when I'm in the JCB feeding the cows in like 40-45 minutes. So enjoy this short time lapse of everything I get up to for the next hour. It's always hard to judge how much to take out. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to having to deal with bad designs from places that were built 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, and this is a great example of that. This is a calf house with too many calves, has to be cleaned out with wheelbarrows, there's not enough ventilation, it's just bad. Come on! Come on! So now we're going to go and we're going to do the feeding, we're going to give everything silage. So we have to open all the gates because I hate opening gates. So I'm going to need 2 hands. Gates are never easy to open. They always drop and just become a total pain in the butt. I actually forgot this gate broke. I mean, the ambition to fix it is there. It's just no one has bothered to do it yet. Everything just gets block silage. We don't have a feeder wagon here. It's literally silage, nothing else. All meal is fed through the milk compiler. So the first thing we're going to do here is push out all the old silage from last night. There's not a lot of it, thankfully. And we give that old silage to dry cows or to the beef animals. Cows get fresh silage twice a day, basically. So we're only going to give them 2/3 of the grass a week today now. JCB is in bad need of a wash. So I'm going to have to apologise for the cover lying down like this. I will of course blame my father. It was actually him that done it. Quite why he made the decision to just leave it hanging there, I'm not sure, but it is a split in the cover, so I could probably just put it off with the grab. Do not chop cows' heads off if they'd move. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. So that's the cows fed. It took 20 minutes, so that's about right. I can do it a little bit faster if I'm not videoing, but not by much. I now have the heifers to feed, dry cows and beef house. They'll each need a grab, so 5 minutes should finish them off. And then I'm going to go for my breakfast. Same breakfast every day. 4 egg scrambled. What is it? A scrambled eggs is 4 eggs. What's that? 4 egg scrambled egg? That sounds wrong. 4 egg omelette, 4 egg scrambled egg. 4 eggs scrambled. 4 eggs scrambled. After breakfast, we have to bring over some heifers. They were meant to be milked this morning. They clearly weren't milked, they're still there. I don't know why. So I'll bring them over to be milked. And I want to put 4 cows dry this morning. I might put some more, I might get a list and make it up to 6. And then what else do I have to do this morning? Finish scraping, I've a wee more scraping to do. And then that's pretty much it. So I'll video some of that and then I'll catch up with you in the lab, as I call it. And we'll do some electronics. But I'm always too pessimistic on milk price.
But going by...
Is there extra for that extra 3p? 4.5 million. I'll give you the label. Get that tape down there. So that is my farming done for this morning. I don't think I have anything else to do until milking this evening to do with the farm. So we just finished putting 7 cows dry. Our dry cow procedure, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty simple. Iodine wash, scrub the bottom of the teats, make sure the teat ends are spotless. We don't worry too much about the entire teat. And then every cow gets an antibiotic. We don't do dry cow therapy. We have done it before. It's not worth the financial risk. Our cell counts are excellent. We have very good dry period protection. So if a cow goes dry with a low cell count, she calves with a low cell count. So I'm not changing our system. Every cow gets a short duration antibiotic and also gets a teat sealer. It works for us. If you want to do dry cow therapy, go right ahead. So the cows we just let out, they'll stand now for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we'll let them into the cubicles. Actually, I have one more job to do this morning. I have to go bed the cubicles they're going into, so I'll go and do that now. And then the rest of the morning, we're going to do some computer coding. I've already recorded some footage. I need to look at the camera and not the screen. I've already recorded some footage of that, so I'll stick that in at the start, and then I'll do some more like time-lapsey stuff on the finishing bit of the electronics, which I'm going to do up until lunchtime. So yeah. I ended the last clip at 11 o'clock. I thought I had an hour at least before lunch to do some electronics in my lab. It is currently 20 to 12. I forgot I had heifers to tag. I forgot I had to move the dry cows. I forgot I had to add them all to the computer, add the antibiotic records. So I've lost like 40 minutes. It's nearly lunchtime. So my amount of coding I'm going to get done now is very limited. So instead, I'm going to do an introduction. I'm going to explain what I've been doing, and then after this I'm going to give you like a super quick time lapse of building some electronics. So I build control systems. I build GPSs, water systems. I build loads of stuff, but I build control systems for a company called Slurry Equip, and I have a batch of 5 which have some new code It's for a new product which I'm now doing the control systems for, which is basically a slurry tanker with dribble bars, and it has some electro-hydraulic valves. These are really, really heavy. It has some of these, so it controls 3 of these. And this little box also tells you how much is in your tanker and your application rate per 1,000 gallons. The entire thing, from start to finish, is manufactured in this room. So we buy PCBs that look like this. These are designed entirely by myself, printed in China, wonderful company, PCBWay. Shout out to you. I'm going to need more of these PCBWay, so I will message you today about another sponsorship deal. But yeah, I buy the PCBs, I buy all of the components. So this is the component stack for the tanker control systems. I print the cases on my 2 3D printers out of a material called ASA. It's a really annoying material to print, but it's a really strong, durable material. So this is my reject box. This is how many have failed over the last year. This one, for example, was rejected because if you can sort of see it, the top corner there is not perfect. So it was rejected. So yeah, that's where I do everything. Design the 3D cases, print them, do circuit boards. Long way of saying is that I'm going to show you how I build one of these. Okay, so this is a board with the solder paste already on it. You can see the grey. So to get that solder paste onto the board, we use a stencil. So there's a board already onto this. I've already lined up the pads. And then we use basically a knife to spread the solder paste over the stencil. And then we set the components onto the stencil. And then we cook it on this heat plate to solder it all together. So you can see all the solders went shiny. Almost all the solder. This top corner hasn't been done yet, so I'm just going to hold it down. So that's our final PCB just finished cooking. I'll let them cool down there until later on. I'll finish soldering them later on. Anyway, this afternoon I am going swimming. I'm going to try to do like 40 lengths. It's not that impressive, but we'll see. I really hate swimming, but I have to take my son for a swimming lesson, so I figured I may as well go swimming beforehand and get some exercise. So I'll be back at the farm at 3:30. I will catch up with you then. Let's get these boards finished off. It's a fairly straightforward process. We have to add 3 extra components. First one is a little quick connector to attach to the cable. We have to add pins for the LCD touchscreen to attach to, and then finally we have to fit a buzzer so it gives some feedback when you press the little touchscreen. So I'll show you that. So the last step is to fit the screens into the case like this. And then that's going to do us for tonight. I will have 5 of them all finished, code uploaded in the case, ready for tomorrow to get the back put on and the cables attached. So I'm going to show you the process of how I do it. It's a pretty good design, to be honest, if I do say so myself. There's little tabs on the inside and they hold the screen in place. So you can, have I taken the cover off that? I have. You can slide it in. How much do you bet this won't go well after doing the other two, no problem? Sometimes it needs a little help, but that's okay. It's a tight fit. So there we go, that's the screen mounted. Really solid, can't move anywhere because of the little tabs. I should have said this case is 3D printed. I 3D print them here, all my own design. Everything you've just seen is actually my own design. I should have done an introduction to this. Okay, so I've just had my lunch. I'll check that we have audio. We do have audio, right. I don't have audio. Okay, I've just had my lunch and we're going to finish this video off with like a little 5-minute chat. And it's going to be about climate change, carbon audits, how the international standard for modelling emissions accounts for agriculture, and how ridiculous and how unfair the calculation system is. I've done 2 TikToks this week around the topic of how methane is accounted for in regards to dairy cows and how ridiculous it is. So I'm going to summarize that here on YouTube. I'm not going to provide the same level of evidence and proof as I did in TikTok. This is more of a conversation. I can more freely say things without having to back everything up as 100% fact. It is 100% fact, but I'm not taking the time to prove it to you. You just have to either take my word for it or go and watch my 2 TikToks where I do back up what I'm saying. Go read the comment section. A few environmental folk tried to catch me out, but I swiftly dispatched with them because what I'm saying is not a conspiracy theory. It's not new science. It's old science. It's been known about forever. It's in the Paris Climate Change Agreement, so there's nothing controversial about what I'm saying, but I guarantee you for some of you, what I'm about to tell you will really surprise you. So I've done my dissertation at university on greenhouse gas emissions from dairy cows. So I have a good background of knowledge on this topic. I've kept up to date with the science of all of this. I understand all of the principles about methane, carbon dioxide, the global warming potential, the factors that affect how much global warming potential each kilogram of milk has. I understand all that, I have a good knowledge around that. But whenever I was at uni, I did not grasp how unfair the current system, the international standards for accounting for dairy cow emissions was. And looking back with the knowledge I have now, I can see that I was heavily influenced by my 2 supervisors who were guiding me on my dissertation to really get a worst case scenario for emissions from dairy cows. And that worst case scenario, that methodology I used, which was based on the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change, it is still used today. It's the international standard and it is extremely, extremely biased. 70% of my cow's emissions comes from methane, and that methane is generated in their rumen from them processing grass. And whenever I was at uni, and whenever I done my dissertation, I just accepted that cows produce methane. Methane is 27 times more polluting than CO2. You put that into your calculation and you get your final figure of CO2 equivalents at the end. I didn't question it, and I have a feeling a lot of people don't question it. They just accept that what they're being told is science. A few years after I finished uni, I don't know whether I was reading something I heard in a presentation, but someone mentioned that methane was 90 times or 89 times more polluting than CO2. And this sort of got my attention because I had always heard it was 27 or 24. Sometimes 24 was used. And I went away and done some reading, some research afterwards, and indeed, methane is 89 or 97 or 95, something around there. It's like 90 times more polluting, more global warming potential than CO2. So I investigated a little bit further. Why are we all using this 27 figure? It doesn't make any sense. And that's when I discovered that methane has a half-life of only 10 years. So methane survives in the atmosphere before it breaks down naturally for about 10 years. And the reason that they use the 27 figure is to account in some way for that half-life, right? So that all was okay, that settled me for a wee while, and I moved on with my life. But the more things I heard and they didn't make sense, they didn't line up with everything I knew in my head, the more I began to question, what is going on? How is this meant to be a science with international guidelines and factual figures of this is the number you use? If you want an emission value for a kilogram of dairy feed, here is the exact number to 6 decimal points. How does that square with all of this fudging and variance and assumptions that I was seeing? And to cut a long story short, the more I looked into it, the more insane the global system for accounting for methane got. And I am going to share that all with you in a really simple form to demonstrate how ridiculous the way methane is calculated for dairy cows is. I'm going to say why it's calculated like this at the start, and then I'll tell you how it's calculated. It's calculated like this basically because there is no account made for the difference between natural gas, which is methane largely, and biomethane, which is methane from cows. The two are treated exactly the same way as if methane was released from a giant gas well under the ocean, or if it came from a cow. And you ask, why is it treated the same way? It's treated the same way because the people with the power, the people with the knowledge, the people with the money to lobby and affect international policy were the same people who were the fossil fuel industry and heavy industry and the transport industry. All of these huge monolithic billion-dollar companies, they made sure the entire international system was set up to their benefit, and those who are disadvantaged out of it all is us, the farmers. So I'm going to give you a simple example, and this is an example I shared on TikTok. It's the same thing. Go watch the TikTok. It's more engaging and snappy and concise. This is meant to be more long form, more technical, giving a wee bit more detail. So we're going to start with the idea of a biofuel. And why is a biofuel green energy? And the example I used in my TikTok was a stick. Okay, you can burn timber in a power plant and it's renewable energy. The carbon released from the stick when it's burnt was captured in the first place by the tree. Does that make sense? So it's a cycle. So carbon captured in the air by the tree, stored in timber, burned, which then releases energy plus CO2. CO2 goes back into the atmosphere and more trees captured. Okay, that's GCSE biology stuff, the carbon cycle. When you think about it, grass is exactly the same as timber. Grass is a store of energy, a store of carbon. It's storing the carbon in sugars and carbohydrates. So you have carbon in the air and it's pulled down into the grass. Grass stores it, and when it, for example, it goes into an anaerobic digester, it releases methane gas. That methane is captured, and when that methane gas is burned, it releases energy and heat. Not heat, energy and CO2. That's why AD plants get ROCs payment, renewable energy payments, because it is a green, it's not a green energy, but we'll move on. It is a green energy source that's renewable. The carbon has come from the air, so when it's released, it has no effect. However, surely the same principle would apply to cows. And in reality, in actual science, it does apply to cows. The carbon from the air goes into the grass, the cows eat the grass or meal, it doesn't matter. maize meal from America, soya from Brazil has still captured carbon to produce the energy, goes into the cow, and it releases energy, which the cow uses, and methane gas. Methane gas goes into the air. It naturally breaks down within 10 years to CO2 and water, and that CO2 is reabsorbed, again, completing the cycle. So my whole point of all of these examples is that the methane emitted from cows has been captured in the first place by the grass. So you only ever have one carbon molecule. Yes, you have a change of form from CO2 to methane, but that naturally changes back within 10 years in the atmosphere to CO2 plus water. So it makes no difference. It is a cycle. I did have a few people commenting on my TikTok that methane is more polluting. Like I said at the start, methane is a more polluting greenhouse gas. It has a higher global warming potential. But my second TikTok video was addressing that because I deliberately didn't mention that in my first TikTok video because I knew the eco warriors would comment and I would be able to reply to them and shut them down properly. Because the important thing there is that as one methane molecule enters this atmospheric store of methane, another molecule that was produced by a cow 10 years earlier is decaying down to CO2. So yes, you have an atmospheric store, but if that atmospheric store is never growing, you're not increasing warming. It is not cumulative. The way the international standards are set up under GWP 100, if you want to get really technical, is that all methane emitted from a cow is treated as a one-way emission. There is no account made at any point of international calculation standards for dairy cows or any livestock, ruminant livestock, of the fact that that methane is breaking down to carbon, water, and being reabsorbed by the plant. So you have a ridiculous situation where your grass is capturing carbon. That carbon is going through a cow and going back to where it came from, which is in the air. And the only bit that's counted, if you're a livestock farmer, is the carbon going back into the air. That is not science. That is total and utter nonsense. And this is why no farmer should accept carbon audits. No farmer should accept that climate change is a key priority for them, because the entire system is rigged against us. And why would we take part in a system that is rigged against us? Why would we give it credibility and validate the current calculation system by agreeing to go along with it? So let me just really quickly summarize that point so it's absolutely clear. We'll use the example of a piece of timber, wood. Carbon in the air, goes through a tree, stored in wood, burned, energy, carbon out, back into the air. A cycle. Grass from a cow, carbon from a cow, CO2 in the air, goes into grass, stored in carbohydrates and sugars. Cows eat the grass, cows emit methane, methane breaks down to CO2 and water, completing the cycle. The both are exactly the same, and one is considered renewable, green, carbon neutral, and the other is considered as a massive source of global emissions. And the only reason for the difference is because of a difference in assumptions and a deliberate willingness to ignore where the carbon came from in the first place, which feeds the cow. Right, that is going to do us for this week's video. Thank you all very much for watching. Again, I'm kind of pushing the limit of what is acceptable and watchable. Having someone talk about climate science for 20 minutes on a farming YouTube channel, I feel like this shouldn't work. I'm gonna keep pushing this until it doesn't work, and then I'll go back a wee bit, okay? That's my plan. But this is like the reason why I thought I wanted a YouTube, was to get technical and detailed and try to like inform farmers about how much of what they're being fed is total rubbish and nonsense. And it is total rubbish and nonsense. Like the whole climate counting and climate auditing nonsense is total rubbish. And I am not talking about climate change. That discussion can sit out here on its own. I am talking about the current way in which farmers and agriculture is accounted for and audited. It is not science, it's unscientific drivel and nonsense. And we should have no part of it. Anyway, I went back into rant mode there. But hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back next week. No idea what video I'll do next week. I had thought of an idea in my head. I'll just say it at the end of the video. It's always dangerous to say this because you'll get no comments left and you'll look like an idiot, but I'm okay with that. If people were interested and you had any like really good questions and you wanted me just to address them and answer them with a video rather than a comment, if you want to ask me a question to do with a video, stick video or something in front of the comment or say in the comment somewhere, could you answer this with a video? And I might do a midweek video where I'm literally just sitting and answering questions. Maybe. No promises. If I answer your comment with a question or with a text comment, you'll know I'm not doing a video on it. But it was an idea I had in my head. I might do it, I might not. But in case anyone has any really good questions or more questions about climate change or carbon or red tractor or whatever, let me know. If you've made it to this point of this video, you're mad. but I very much appreciate it. So thank you. I will be back next week. No idea what it's going to be about. It's pretty random. Hopefully I didn't unplug my microphone. Hello? No, I didn't. I'll be back next week with something different again. If you enjoyed this, if you enjoy something a little bit different, give this video a like, subscribe if you really liked it, and I would love if you would leave a comment or a question or something for me to respond to. I am more than happy to do that. So thank you all very much. I will see you in like 10 days again. So it's 7 days for you. This is Wednesday. This will go out on Saturday.